Hey kids, and welcome to this week's Let's Get Growing class. I'm so happy to see you all here today to talk about pollination. My name is Sylvia, and I'm a IFAS Ag Extension agent here in Suwannee County, where I get to help farmers every day. First things first, let's start with the basics. What is pollen? Pollen is found in a flower. It's a powdery substance, usually yellow or orange, and helps new plants grow. Pollen is the main source of protein, as well as some vitamins, minerals, and fats for insects like honeybees. Here's what pollen looks like on a bee and what we usually see when we look around flowers. But here is what pollen looks like on a microscopic level. Look how cool this is. Great, now that we know what pollen is, what is pollination? Pollination is the process of transferring pollen from male flower parts to female flower parts. To better explain how pollination works in a plant, let's take a closer look at a flower. This is a flower that I took around my house. Isn't it so pretty? But we need to get a little bit closer. Let's zoom in. These are the flower parts. Pollination happens when a tiny pollen grain from a flower's male reproductive parts, the anthers, are moved to the female part, the stigma, of the same species. Once on the stigma, the pollen grain grows a tube that runs down the style to the ovary, where fertilization occurs, producing seeds. Some flowers can pollinate themselves, and others must be pollinated through wind or insects called pollinators. Pollinators are insects that move pollen from the anthers to the stigmas of flowers, leading to fertilization. Some good pollinators include butterflies, hummingbirds, moths, flies, wasps, bats, and bees, just to name a few. Plants produce nectar to attract these different pollinators. Pollinators have small hairs that cover their bodies. When pollinators travel from flower to flower collecting nectar, some pollen grains will attach themselves to these hairs, as you see in this picture. This process is aided by static electricity, which is produced during flight. This charge pulls pollen grains to the hairs of the pollinator. When the pollinator visits the next flower, some pollen rubs off its body onto the stigma for fertilization. Something that's really cool is that flowers have adapted over time to become more attractive to certain pollinators, such as changing their leaf size, changing their scent, or even their color to appeal to different pollinators. Certain fruits and seeds will not produce if their flowers are not pollinated. So here you are, learning about pollinators. But why? Pollinators are so important. They are crucial to the production of most fruits, nuts, and berries, on which people and wildlife depend on, just like you. Over 150 crops in the United States depend on pollinators, including watermelon, blueberries, and oranges. 2/3 of the human diet depend on crop pollination by honeybees and other pollinators. Beef, dairy, poultry, and pork industries are dependent on hay, silage, and grain crops pollinated by bees and other pollinators. Now that you've learned a little bit about pollination and different pollinators that help our flowers grow, what can you do to help these little guys? Be kind to pollinators, like bugs. Be gentle with them and do not touch. Be careful when using bug spray. Do not spray on bugs. Plant native flowers that the pollinators love around the house and garden. Also, choose plants that flower at different times. Finally, leave stumps and logs out for pollinators to nest in so they have little homes to live in. Thank you guys for watching this video. I'm so excited that I got to hang out with you today and teach you a little bit about pollination. If you have questions, go ahead and ask. If not, get ready for your activity. I'll see you guys around. Bye.